bullet. It gon' take round. Opponents better move slow. Attack dog for this truth. Nigga, cool zone. Go to ground, 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 go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Get ground, get ground, get ground, back up, get ground, get ground, get ground, back up, get ground, get ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground, 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 take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Oh, thought you could cross us with no consequence, but you will pay this. You should've used your common sense. My zeal lit, that mean you could never prevail. Hey, with a true sit, hey, with warriors dwell. Be wise with the weapons, cause I'm props. My nine just like my wife, she concealed, she box. I know two things, a robber with a prop. And any man harm me and my aunt gon' make the stop. Cause this life is warfare, it's not an easy walk. Been watching my people die, so you can miss me with that love talk. My UPK soldiers, any man try to cross your path, make him regret what that meant. Fall on his ass. Comparing me to you really ain't no contest. I only one way. Say what? I only one way. This for those who thinking we ain't ready for. Tell them back up. I'm about to drop some heavy for. Go to ground, 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 go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Get ground, get ground, get ground, back up, get ground, get ground, get ground, back up, get ground, get ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground, 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 take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. You should've used your common sense. I see that you could never prevail. Hey, with a true sit, hey, with warriors dwell. Be wise with the weapons, cause I'm props. My nine just like my wife, she concealed, she box. I know two things, a robber with a prop. And any man harm me and my aunt gon' make the stop. Cause this life is warfare, it's not an easy walk. Been watching my people die, so you can miss me with that love talk. My UPK soldiers, any man try to cross your path, make him regret what that meant. Fall on his ass. Comparing me to you really ain't no contest. I only one way. Say what? I only one way. This for those who thinking we ain't ready for. Tell them back up. I'm about to drop some heavy for. Go to ground, 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 go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Get ground, get ground, get ground, back up, get ground, get ground, get ground, back up, get ground, get ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground, 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 take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down.
All right, Shalom Israel.
Shalom.
All right, we are the ISUPK out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under our Commanding General Yahana. All right, we've been teaching the truth according to the Bible since 1969, that the so-called black man, the so-called native Indian man, and the Hispanic man are of the 12 lost tribes. All right, we're going to be getting into the deception of emancipation, and bring a couple things out so that the so-called black man going to understand that, emancipation had nothing in the spirit of it in terms of putting the black man in a place to regain freedom or to retain his culture. All right? So before I get into it, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, loud.
All right, no sweat. Before we get into it, it's still out here. That one thing I was looking for here before we start going into it. I gotta go inside. All right, so like, yeah, let's bear with me 1 minute, Israel. Let me just check one thing out. 6. All right, I'll plug that back in just now. Right, so before we get into the whole emancipation celebration of the celebrate, I just gonna make some pointers, a few pointers on emancipation before we get into the class for you. All right, so I just want to read from an article here. Right, what I'm gonna bring out is Emancipation Day is seen as one of the most significant commemorations in Caribbean history. It is celebrated, Salakia, it is a celebration of freedom and liberation from a system of oppression and servitude. Right? So what it is we know in history is that we celebrate emancipation, because that is the time where the so-called oppressors, the so-called white man, they release us from being in captivity or release us from being in slavery, which, as we bring out in the class study, and which, as the ISUPK have been teaching since 1969, is a deception, right? This history that we celebrate, or this holiday, according to the scriptures, have no profit for the so-called black man, but we're going to get more in the dynamics of it so we can further understand what this is all about and what is really important for the so-called black man. All right? While we know the significance of the day, there are a few items we may not know about the period leading to emancipation. Right? So let's touch on a few. One, the Caribbean achieved emancipation before the United States did. So we know usually most of the time, the United States in itself is where a lot of let me say, like, laws or holidays might be established, and then now it is further trickle down throughout the Caribbean and down into the South Americas. Okay. Right? But in the case of the emancipation, all right, it was something different. Right? That was established in the Caribbean first, and then later on it was established in the Americas. Okay. Right? In the 19th century saw the gradual evolution of emancipation sweep through the islands of the Caribbean well before the United States. All right, Britain was one of the catalysts in this process by first abolishing the slave trade in 1808, followed by apprenticeship, and finally emancipation in 1838. All right, I will try and get a link in the chat. Right, when we was I believe he was trooper still. Right, Captain Mashak had taught a class on emancipation, and they went through the apprenticeship. We will still touch on it and another article as long as time permits. If not, we will put the link from Captain Mashak class, that is our captain, in the chat. All right. Slaves in the United States were emancipated in 1865. So they're showing you the comparison in the two dates. Right. So the next point is that slaves were emancipated but not free. Emancipation Day was officially declared on August the 1st, 1834, and was celebrated throughout the British Caribbean. However, the newly freed slaves were forced into a period of apprenticeship. Apprenticeship was touted as being a period of transition slaves into freedom. So they set up the apprenticeship as a program. They come like a prison program. When they come out of prison and they're coming back into society, they give you a program to cultivate you back into society. So that is basically what they were stating, they're setting up the apprenticeship for. So they kidnap us from in Africa, kidnap your family, your whole family, bring you in another side of the world, work you as slaves, kill you, rape you, lynch you, and then now they're setting up a program to bring you back into society, So, this whole emancipation thing is just a joke, from the get-go. All right? There were little changes in treatment and working conditions. All right, so I'm going to go up a little higher. As being a period of transitioning slaves into freedom while they earned a small stipend. So you earn a small stipend as an apprenticeship after slavery. There were little changes in treatment and working conditions under apprenticeship. So why is it working in apprenticeship and making you understand, well, you'll get emancipation, right? The document saying that, and history will show you that there were little changes, right? Men was still getting lynched, as I call it, flog. Some of the documents that they're going to find where the cattle line originated from, right? We were whipped with cattle lines. These things didn't change. Although in apprenticeship, these things never changed for the so-called black man, all right? The Native Indian man, the Hispanic man, right? They were still, the so-called black man, he was still expected to remain on the plantation and put in more than 10-hour days apprenticeship, right? So now you're on the plantation, and it's like today when you're going to work, you still have us going and put in more than 10-hour days. So you're going out every day and you're putting in more than 10. So that more than 10 can be up to any time, right? Absenteeism will result in imprisonment. So all of the telling you, you will get emancipated. If you show up on that plantation, the punishment for it is imprisonment. And fantasies flogged, including females. So if the woman for herself miss going on the plantation, all of the promising you emancipation, even the woman will get beaten, right? Or put in prison for missing a day on the plantation. And that is around the time where the so-called preparing emancipation for the so-called black man. So imagine if that was taking place at that time, what the situation was before that. All right? That's what we have to take into consideration. Right? So the saying here, the scheme came to an end 4 years later after the Anti-Slavery Society petitioned and fought for its end. The parliament voted for complete emancipation, right? Freedom without being an apprentice, without apprenticeship, to take effect from August the 1st, 1838, right? And we'll go into that later on, but I want to bring out some other points before, right? So this here, Trinidad and Tobago is the first country in the world to declare emancipation a national holiday, right? So that's another thing to take note of. So a lot of Trinidadians highly esteem Emancipation Day because we was the first people in the world to declare Emancipation Day a holiday. So you see a lot of so-called black people esteem emancipation in a big way. It's a big celebration because we have something to hold on to or something within ourselves that telling me that we're free. So we esteem it in a large way. All right? Emancipation Day was first declared as a national holiday on August the 1st in 1985 in Trinidad and in Tobago, right? Replacing Columbus Day, which marked Christopher Columbus' arrival in Trinidad on July the 31st, 1498. So now you're seeing the Emancipation Day come into effect as a public holiday, and it starts replacing now Christopher Columbus Day. So now you're really getting that sense of freedom because we ain't celebrating the day that the oppressor, the man that rape and lynch your foreparents, you're not celebrating that day no more. Now you're celebrating that we're free. And we're going to find out as the class going along if we're really free, and we're going to bring up some old videos to show things within that period till now that take place for we to get a better understanding what taking place with the so-called black man today. Right? I'm going to go down to one more. All right, so I will hold up on that article for now, right? And what I want to go into is a video. Now, Officer Galawan, that is our camp leader, he spoke about voting yesterday, right? So I wouldn't be going into voting, but I just want to bring out a video that I find was pretty interesting, and we're going to bring out a couple of scriptures to go with it, right? So we know that the so-called black man, according to the scriptures, is not a vote, right? Our officer, the head of our camp, he taught on that yesterday, Sunday's class, where the so-called black man is not to put any other nation or any other race of people to rule over him. All right, that is the laws of the Most High that is set for the so-called black man. Now, in saying that, we're going to understand a little bit why that is the case, and also we're going to understand the spirit of the other races, right? And we're also going to talk about the so-called white man being the head of this empire, right? His spirit is poured out on all the other races, right? The scriptures talk about buying and selling in the scriptures where no man can buy and sell, no man can trade, least they follow the policies of the oppressor. right? So I want to touch a short video here, right? That was edited, and I'm going to bring some things into perspective. All right. Get off. Oh, still up here. All right, I'm gonna wait for it to come up. All right, just wait a moment. Let me just get the system back up here. All right. So this video is going to be bringing out one of the political leaders in Trinidad, right? This political leader is in opposition right now, but before this present government, they were the ruling party. This party is mainly consists of people of the East Indian descent. All right. The party at present is a party, well, more or less have a lot of so-called Negroes, but the so-called Negroes are not in charge of this political party. They really in control by the Syrians and so forth. But we're going to make a comparison between Donald Trump and the former political party that is also trying to come into power. This goes for all governments, but we're going to make you understand the spirit, all right, of the oppressor and the other nations being confederate or in agreement with the rulers in this system. All right, so you pay attention to the video.
You know, talk about sunlight. Sunlight is great. We have sunrise. The climate we have is one of the best in the world. And I repeat again, sunlight will kill COVID-19.
Because we want ideas to get this thing. And if he...
I'm taking it from the top again, right? So that 3 points that you're bringing out, and I really want to focus on the last point. All right, I hope.
You know, talk about sunlight. Sunlight is great. We have sunrise. The climate we have is one of the best in the world.
Right, so she's saying the sunlight in the Caribbean is one of the best in the world. All right, the sunlight great.
And I repeat again, sunlight will kill COVID-19.
Because we want ideas...
Right, so she's saying now that sunlight going to kill COVID-19. It's going to kill the plague that the Most High sent. All right, to punish the heathen. All right, because the Most High laid laws that we ought to follow to prevent, for example, like the COVID-19. But the heathen being in power again, the whole world is out of course. So we take into comparison what she's saying, and now we're going to go into what Donald Trump is saying. So she's saying the sunlight is going to kill the COVID-19, and then we will get to the meat it.
...is to get rid of this thing. And if heat is good, and if sunlight is good, that's a great thing as far as I'm concerned.
Right? So Donald Trump saying once the heat is good, and once sunlight is good, that is a good thing as far as he's concerned. So it's showing you now the coonery and the spirit of the other races and the lust for power. Because this is the same thing that the opposition leader or political persons always do. In the lust for power, anybody that is in control, they always cleave to that person, they always cleave to the policies because of recent the former Prime Minister at the time, Kamala, what she was doing, she was actually siding with Donald Trump against Maduro to get America's support to help her get the assistance from overseas to come into political power or into political office. So now they will have a better chance to rule again by having that powerhouse, which is America, backing them. All right, so she in alignment. Donald Trump said the sunlight go kill COVID. She in alignment, sunlight go kill COVID. All right, so this is the next thing that I brought out here. All right, Donald Trump here, pumping with the bodyguard them. Everybody wearing masks, he ain't wearing none. Same spirit, right? She pumping, she bodyguards them. She ain't wearing no mask too, right? But this is what we want to get to.
And we can make TNT great again.
Right, I'm replaying that one more time. So she's saying in her speech that we can make TNT great again. Now, I'm going to show, let me play it through first.
Make TNT great again.
Right.
And we will make America great again.
And we can make TNT great again.
And we will America great again.
And we can make TNT great again.
And we will make America great again.
Right? So now, what the political opposition leader is saying in his speech is that we will make Trinidad great again. And it's the same thing that Donald Trump continually says in his speeches, where they will make America great again. And that had a big controversy overseas when Donald Trump made that remark that he's going to make America great again. Because everybody was asking, when was America great? They was trying to coin the pieces together. The only way and the only time they could see that America was great is when the so-called black man was in slavery, working and building the white economy, all right, and being raped and lynched and murdered and had no power to do anything about it in full effect. Now, the Kamala Prasad Bissessa are saying, we will make Trinidad great again. So now we have to look back. When was Trinidad great? You go great when Christopher Columbus came, lynching and doing the same thing as in the Americas, the so-called black man, and had the so-called black man in captivity working for free. And it's showing you the same spirit of the oppressor, the so-called white man, is the same spirit that the so-called East Indians pushing, the Syrians pushing, the Chinese pushing, the Africans pushing. And we ain't going in detail with all the different races just because of time. But it's showing you the spirit that they're pushing. Their whole plan is to make each country that they travel and came to and conquered and steal and from, make it great again, which means putting the so-called black man back in servitude, making the so-called black man know his place. Because now it's like the so-called black man coming out his shell. You know what I mean? He's saying all too much. He's saying the Jews black. He's saying that Christ black. He's saying that the so-called black man is the chosen of the Most High. So now the plan is to make the Americas, North, Central, and South America again. All right? And just touch on it in the scriptures so you take it a better understanding what's taking place. Right? So you give me the full scripture, the Revelation chapter 13 and verse 17.
The book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell,
Right.
save he that had the mark.
Right. Go up one more verse. Let me just make sure I
Verse 16. And he caused it all, both great and rich. Both great, both small and great. Rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
Right. So the scripture is saying that ruling power, the oppressor, that he caused both great and small. And this talking about countries, great countries, small countries, rich and poor countries, free and bond, to receive a mark. Because people like to talk about this mark and don't understand what you're talking about. Right? Talking about the policies, the ideologies of the oppressor. And if these countries don't agree with America, what America do to them, and America puts sanctions on them, as we see happen in recent times with President Nicolas Maduro. All right, by him not agreeing with America, what they do, they put sanctions on him and cause now the country to start a spiral. Right, the England refused to give him all the billions of dollars in gold reserves that they have. And now the people start to flee from in Venezuela across into Trinidad due to hunger and these type of things that start taking the so-called black man in Venezuela, because the Venezuelans are black people from the tribe of Asher, one of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. So now the so-called black man in oppression again, because the president refused to agree and bow to America policies, right? So great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, right? Forcing them to receive the mark in their right hand. So to receive that mark is to agree with America policies as part as their governmental policies, as we see in the political leader more or less advertising or insinuating before time. We will make Trinidad great again. We're going to agree with you, Donald Trump. That is an easy way to send that message. You understand? Because we don't understand our history. It have a lot of things like this that the so-called black man wouldn't pick up on. We would just see this as some normal and pass it by. But this have a lot of things more deep-seated in what taking place. All right, read on. Before you read verse 17, right? On their foreheads, right? In the mind. So the same way America does things, all these other nations is to do things the way that America does things. All right, read verse 17.
Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell.
Right. So the scripture is showing you that no man is going to be able to do what? To buy or to sell. And I talking about trade. Ain't talking about going in a parlor and buy a bag of bread. It's talking about trade. No man is going to be able to trade unless you agree with America policies. Otherwise, you see, Venezuela was trying to buy gas the other day, and every way they turn to buy gas is blockage. Because America threatening other countries now. If you only sell them gas, we put sanctions on it. We go bust certain shots on it. So that everybody in a game. So this recent situation is a good example for the so-called black man to understand better what the scriptures is saying when he professing the ISUPK under commanding General Yana bring these things out here. All right, read on.
Save he that had the mark.
Except he have the mark. Except he agree with America policies. Read on.
Or the name of the beast. Or the number of his name.
Right, the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now you merge and you become one. You become known as an American partner. Right? A trade partner, arm in arm. You receive the name, you receive the mark of the beast. Talking about America, which is Babylon the Great. Right? So I just bring out that scripture with this to make the so-called black man better understand what is taking place, and we're going to show you the connection from slavery before emancipation till now. But what we're doing, we cannot step in and going backwards to give you a better understanding from more recent times, rolling back to emancipation, because it have always been like that for the so-called black man. All right? The goal and the plan is to keep the so-called black man as the free labor, right? As the economic force. Because the so-called black man is responsible for building North, Central, South America, and all other parts of the world, England, UK, and so forth. So we are the ones actually holding up the economy. That is why it's high time for the so-called black man to understand that is only separating from this economy is what is going to give the so-called black man power to rule again. Right? And we're going to go into that. And before we move on, you're going to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 30. Right? I'm going to touch one of the curses in the scriptures out of the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. All right, read.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Right? So the scripture is saying, one man shall betroth a wife. So you will get a wife, you go choose a woman, and what will happen?
And another man shall lie with her.
And another man is going to lie with that woman. And we all know that happened all throughout slavery. When the black man had a wife, the oppressor, he can do what he wants. He can have no power in your hand, no military might, no economic might, right? No structure in place where you know can safeguard your family, you know, or be that head and that protector over your wife. Even today, even in modern time today, these curses, if the so-called black man don't return to his culture, these same curses is in effect. You betroth a wife, and another man go with you. Because what the society pushes, you understand, is basketball wives, mob wives, and all these programs now pushing all these ideologies and philosophies of America, that is of adultery and things that is going to destroy the black home. These are the things that are constantly pushed on the so-called black man through television, right, through radio, through media. By who again? by the same oppressor that had it enslaved, by the so-called white man. You understand? By those, the oppressor that pretending he's a Jew. Because he owned Hollywood, he owned the Diamond District, because they are the ones that are in power. All right? That was all in the scripture?
That's it.
All right, read on.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
Thou shalt do what?
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
Right, so the scripture is saying the so-called black man, he go also build houses. And he say, you know what happened? He ain't gonna dwell in it. And when you watch from history till now, these curses in the scriptures are real. As the scriptures tell you, this in here to make the black man know he's a real Jew. These things in here as a mark and as a sign to make the so-called black man understand that he is the chosen of the Most High. And that is what we must understand as a mark and as a sign. So we building houses, we building buildings all over. And as the scriptures say, we ain't dwelling in it. It come even when you look into the Americas. When you look in the Americas, you're seeing even the structure of the White House. The so-called black man build the entire of Washington, D.C., build the entire of the White House. And when we build the White House, who dwelling in it? Dwelling in it? Read the scripture again, that part, Salakia.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
So we building houses, and we not dwelling in it. Who occupy the White House from that beginning of time till now? The oppressor. We building houses, and the oppressors dwelling in them. These things is prophecies in the scripture that we seeing existing up till today. These is things to take note of. The so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man, taking note of these things. All right, but when you look even at Barack Obama, a lot of us who don't know history do not understand that Barack Obama is not of the same race as the so-called black man, but Barack Obama is an African, right? He is from the descendants of those responsible for hunting us down, gathering us up, and selling us to the so-called white man with the help of the Arabs. So Barack Obama and the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man is not the same race of people. So these things we read in these scriptures here will not be concerning him, because these records were written for the so-called black man to understand how we fall and what we need to do to rise again. So when you're looking at all the presidents that been in the White House, just as the scriptures say, they were the ones, right, where we build the houses and they dwelling in it, right? That African come from wherever he come from and he dwelling in the White House. And the so-called black man, now due to ignorance and having that Christian philosophy on them, where everybody is one. What we thinking? Barack Obama and we is the same. Are dark, right? They are Hawaiians that is dark. They are different races of people. We dark skin like the Africans, but we are not Africans. We are not from the same foreparents. All right? The Africans are Hamites, and we are from Shem. And that is what we must understand. To get chance now to reclaim the culture and reclaim the identity, which is essential. Because that will profit the so-called black man in every which way to know his race. They're going to know these records belong to you and all understand his inheritance. And now we're going to be in a position now to stand once again to reclaim it. Not to look for equality, not to look for repatriation and so forth, but to put us in a position to rule and bring our people out of the ghettos and out of the slums. To bring people out of Silox, out of John, out of Labrie, out of Rima. You understand? That is what we need to do. To bring people out of the ghetto. All over the world where we might be. Alright? That was the end of the scripture, right?
Last.
Right, read on. Salakia.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard.
What we will do?
Plant a vineyard.
Right, so the scripture is saying that the so-called black man, we're going to plant a vineyard. Read on.
And shall not gather the grapes thereof.
And we shall not gather the grapes thereof. When you look at all these, the other 10 tribes, the Mexicans, right? All the Hispanics, working all these major fields, right? Even us, especially during slavery, right? But all now the Hispanic tribes still working fields, and what the scripture say going to happen?
Thou shalt plant a vineyard and shall not gather the grapes thereof.
Right, so we will plant a vineyard and we will not gather the grapes thereof. So that is what taking place with the so-called black man. These scriptures is prophecies to make us understand who he is, So then now, as the scripture says, the things written before time, written for we learning, now we're going to know the moves to make. We're going to understand when these brothers coming on these classes, right, going on the streets, right, going to the poor, going up in the ghetto, is to make us know who we is so we can gather together. And gathering together and separating from the culture of the other nations is what going to give us that power to rule again. Because now we ain't going to be doing what them doing and having our God against us. Want to celebrate Diwali and Christmas and so forth and so forth. We're going to get that strength to come together again. Right? I believe that's also concluded, right? All right, so now I touch on an article here again. Right, this is from V.S. Naipaul, because Commandant General Yahana, that is the head of Israel. I'm going to put a link because they have the grill tonight at 9 o'clock. Salakia, Black Watch at 9 o'clock. I will put a link in the chat. So anybody want to see and understand who our leader is and what the ISUPK is all about, right? The raising up of the so-called black man, the native Indian man, and the Hispanic man, that link going to be in the chat, right? And anybody watching the classes too, like the classes, share the classes, because this is going to help make other black men, black women, and even the children aware of who this culture is all about. So it's important to do that to get the word out. Why is men on the ground, right, teaching and so forth, to get this word out? You can help by doing that by using the oppressor same device against him, which is social media. All right, we can push that and push this through. Like it and share it. If you can't come on the front line with the priests and prophets, still help. As scripture say, love your neighbor yourself. Help by doing that. You understand? Get that truth on the outside, right? And let me make this whole thing turn around. So I'm reading here now from this book here from V.S. Naipaul. This is important to note because Commandant General Yana was bringing out, him and General Mahaiman was bringing out some points on the grill. And the so-called black man failed to realize how we always demonized by the other races. What we fail to realize is this, that the so-called black man naturally is a loving people. But how we have gotten ourselves now entangled with the other races, we start picking up the ideologies, right, the philosophies, and it starts bringing division among us. And that's how we know you'll be hearing a lot of black on black crime, because now we is Muslim and we is Rasta. But even in that, the general was bringing out something heavy. He was bringing out in the police force, right? The police force in America, right? New York City, right? For this year, that they had a topping of 777 police shootings where police killing one another, right? And that surpassed 2019 number of murders, right, that take place in America. So what he was bringing out is that the other races left to themselves will kill themselves and fight themselves. So we know in past times you go here in the final bacchanal, but especially with them East Indian, they're fighting for land, they're fighting for urban, they're drinking poison, they're hanging themselves. The so-called black man now becomes so engulfed in East Indian culture and in East Indian, East Indian business. We know, in a sense, then paying the price physically and even spiritually for the things that's supposed to just be happening to them. Because we're supposed to be as separate people with our laws, our commandments, and our statutes. Because we have laws in the scriptures showing us how to live. Right. These laws was not given to the East Indian and to the Chinese and so forth. So they're not having them laws, them live lawless. But we know through due to media, always portray the so-called black man in an evil way and in a negative way. But when the general bring that out now, I start digging up a little more history in Trinidad, and the general was on point, because it's the same spirit of the so-called white man, the oppressor, is the same spirit that all the other races have, where they always fight against one another. Right. And when we separate ourselves from what they is be involved in, then they go have the television with all the high crime, it will be on them end. It will be on we end. Because we know as a people that have laws to govern we, to change the entire ghetto from child molestation, murder, rape, and the list goes on. We have the cure for every black problem, and this written in the records of our forefathers, which is the scriptures. But your Christian pastor know how to read it and following after the ways of the oppressor for money. So they will teach you that. You learning the so-called black man is going to take money out of people's pocket, right? So now I'm reading a small article here, right? This is from V.S. Naipaul, who was born in 1932, writes, in the Indian countryside, in my childhood, so this is 1932, in Trinidad, there were many murders and acts of violence. And these acts gave the Trinidad Indians, already separated from the rest of the island by language, religion, and culture. So it's showing, you know, when I was here, the slaves and the East Indians were separated by language, by religion. So the religions that the so-called black man in now, like Christianity and being Muslim, these things were brought across by the East Indians. Because before the East Indians come here, no black man in Trinidad was a Muslim. And Christianity was forced on all the races by the so-called white man. And they came here with that. And the so-called black man now start picking up these religions. And these things displease the Most High. That's why we're still in this position. So we have to turn back to what the Most High want for we to be separate. Come out of religion. Come out of all these customs. Right? We know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob wasn't walking around no rock kissing it. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob wasn't wearing no cross around the neck saying there is no Christian, and no Catholic, and no Pentecostal. No Egyptologist, no ankle around the neck. These things is foolishness and concepts of the heathen. Right? So he's saying now that the countryside in his childhood in Trinidad, there were many murders and acts of violence. And these acts gave Trinidad Indians, already separated from the rest of the island by language, religion, and culture, a fearful reputation. So now it can be readily purchased from stores in Port of Spain. So now we can buy knives and guns and so forth in stores in Port of Spain, and I don't know the Syrians and the Chinese them is mainly who's selling that, right? Port of Spain and San Fernando, right? Only in 1844 was legislation passed in an attempt to control violence. So they tried to pass some type of legislation in 1844 to control violence, right? With the ordinance number 8 making it a capital offense to wound anyone with the intent to kill, right? According to historian C.R. Utley in his book, East Indians Rescue Trinidad, the first person to be executed the following year after they passed that law, under the law, was an East Indian man who had attacked a woman and maimed her, right? So an East Indian man attacked a woman, cut off she hand and she foot and whatever, he maimed she. So he was the first person in the country to get executed. Now we have to remember during that time, the so-called black man was being punished and lynched and whipped and so forth for trying to escape captivity. So all this crime and murder, what we will touch on here, is with the East Indians, right? Who's the majority, and the Chinese and the Syrians, right? In that era, Indian men in central Trinidad carried the same stigma. So let me read over this again. In that era, so during that period, when the so-called black man wasn't integrated with the East Indian, with the other races, Indian men in central Trinidad carried the same stigma that young black men from Lavantil have today. And that's an important thing to note. So all that violence, right, and crime that is seen in the black communities today is a direct result of integration. Is a direct result of forced emancipation, making them feel you're free and really integrate with the other races. So all we start doing is picking up their ways. And the scriptures tell us, follow not the ways of the heathen. The things that they do, we start doing it. Because we have principles how to love one another, how to deal with one another, how to trash out issues with one another, which is we go to our council and we deal with the issues and the judgments come to suit. They, like animals. A man get mad, they chop him, they shoot off your head, they stab him, they kill him, they hang him, they chop up your wife. That is the way of the heathen. And the so-called black man now integrating, right, with the other races through emancipation, force us now to start developing and picking up that culture because we lost the identity. We don't know who we is. We don't know who is the real Jews. We don't know that the scriptures belong to us. And these laws in the Bible here in these scriptures that before fathers lay is the governors. And they will start going off course and it start getting harder for the so-called black man. That is why in the ISUPK today, under Commanding General Yahana, what we're doing, we're making the so-called black man understand you have a race by name, Israelites. You have a culture. You have identity. So that now is going to separate us from all that pain and heartache you see happening all over the world today. So you see in the coronavirus today, when the so-called black man keep learning the culture and his laws and what we supposed to do, we get into history. We know we ain't supposed to eat bat. We know we ain't supposed to eat pork, crab, lobster, and shit. They gone the lobster. They eating the lobster. They eating the crab and so forth. We're going to be separated from that. Because we're going to be doing what the Most High tell we to do. We're going to be eating goat and sheep and chicken and so forth. Not tongues. Because I touched on that. It even had a while back when the East Indians started coming here, the East Indians eating shellfish make a big epidemic spread all over the world. So the whole year now the Chinese now, the other heathens, which is the East Indians, caused cholera to spread over the whole world, and it killed thousands of people in Trinidad, where people had to bury the family in the backyard. This is history that they don't tell the so-called black man, but you can find it. A lot of this history in the newspapers, it in the Trinidad Gazette, which is a historical, which is our old lands, and that's something to take note of. Now, when the East Indians came here, they started coming some by some, but it already had 28,000, well, more than 28,000 black people living in Trinidad. It could be more than 30,000 people living in Trinidad at the time, and the East Indians start coming. But when you're watching the number of black people compared to the number of East Indians that start trickling in some by some, they already fill the jail by half with crime that they're doing. Because remember, they're not in slavery. The black man getting punished for trying to escape, and half the jailers in the jail is Indian because they committing real crime, right? And we'll go more into it. And all these things recorded in history. So they're always trying to say the so-called black man, he's a cockroach, watch them up Lavantil, watch what they're getting on, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're robbing, they're murdering and so forth, is because we integrate. And if we separate, it's going to roll back as it was before. When you're watching the jail is supposed to be full with only heathens. If the so-called black man return to his culture, return to his laws, and return to his identity. And how we can start doing that is by getting into the ISUPK. They're going to teach you how to do that. So you can govern your community and govern your home and get your nation back in our order. All right? So I read it down here. All right? However, in his autobiography, Inward Hunger, Dr. Eric Williams, this is from Dr. Eric Williams' book now, recalls how on the night of June the 24th in 1911, when Trinidadians were celebrating the coronation of King George V, a Chinese shopkeeper was murdered and his shop was set on fire, right? 7 Indian men were charged and 3 of them were convicted and hanged. So now this is some information in a book that Dr. Eric Williams writes with some East Indians. They kill a Chinese, they murder him, they burn down his shop, and 7 of them was involved in that murder, and 3 of them were convicted and hanged. All right? These were one of the 16 murders committed by Indians that year. So early up in that time, them come here working like how you're working as expats in foreign. And when they come across here working as expats, them still have it in the nature, as the scripture is showing you, to murder people. You understand what I'm saying? And this the saying, 16 murders were committed by Indians that year, who also accounted for 2/3 of the shootings with intent and 1/3 of manslaughter. 1/3 of manslaughter convictions in the colony. Right? Half of the prisons in 1911, half of the prisoners in 1911 were Hindus and Muslims, which is just what? East Indians. Because the so-called black man wasn't no Muslim. So half of the prisoners inside there was Indian. And the rest of them is slaves who trying to escape. So when you really look at his, understand and take that veil off your eye today, who is really the criminals? Who is really the pests? That is why today it's so structured that the so-called black man now can't figure it out. Guns coming in the community, drugs, but when you look, the so-called black man, he had no money to buy nothing. Because the hidden making sure that these things get into the black community. And they getting pay, we getting the stigma and experiencing death. Class. Alright, but this is just a little article making the so-called black man understand that although they try to put this stigma on you, and they have no right to be living that murderous, killing and stealing and killing the wife type of way, because they have no excuse. All they come here and all they working as indentured laborers, all they sign contract, all they getting paid. But the so-called black man who have no hope, you understand, never get no type of, let me say, repatriations for the things you go through. You never get no kind of accounting after all that rape and pillage. You know what? We know you how to do. You how to behave nice. You how to act like you saying still. After generations of rape and destruction, you still have to hold your whole mental together and walk a certain way. And as you miss so-called black man, he's a beast. Them is pest and them is cockroach. You understand? When the so-called black man are all right to act how he acting because of systematic, well-planned oppression by the heathen. Alright? And this started being engaged from Emancipation, which was just a trap. Alright? In saying that, I wanted this, let me touch on this one time. So I'm going to play a video here. This video, I believe, is from 1970, right? By Calypsonian. If anybody watching right now, born probably around the 80s, but still have an idea about this song. Probably they hear it already. But it's good in this song to read the lyrics of the song, because they're going to show you the same spirit as the UPK always say to the entire black community, which is the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man, to separate from the heathen. Every time you try to separate, it always causes a stir. That is the only thing that the other races are afraid that the so-called black man do, is separate, not riot, not none of that. They always had what commanding generally I must call it again, the military that is coming, like when things getting bad in riots and thing, the National Guard. They always had a National Guard. All during slavery, they had a National Guard set up. Anytime slaves try to revolt or whatever the case might be, they're moving a whole shipment of soldiers and guns and so forth to bring everybody back in line. So that is a small thing. All them people you see on Facebook with them set up black group with gun and play mad, that can't work. The script here showing you that can't work. They will fly some kind of drone and just fry everybody. But separating, because they see there's one, the so-called black man, to act a certain way to give justification to make mass murder. Them have no problem murdering, but that's what justification for mass murder. But the so-called black man now separate and skillfully now start applying these laws, they're going to take back the entire nation from them. And that is where deliverance going to come in. They will be going to get back real power. Alright? So let me play this calypso here. So people like our Captain Mashak, Captain Nayatak, right? They from born in Trinidad. They will know about this song also. But I play this song so that we can hear it and you can always listen to it on your own time or get something and read all the lyrics. Right? And when I play this song, I will also show the trap that we always fall in. Right? So this is a calypso by Black Stallion. And the name of this is The Caribbean Man. And this caused a big stir, right, during that time. Because when he was singing about the Caribbean man, he was only talking about black people. He wasn't talking about no East Indian. So it caused a stir. Because that is the spirit of separation start coming into effect. All right? So let's somebody play. I'll come back in a minute, right? So let's pay attention to the lyrics of the song. I might read through some.
You try with a federation, the whole thing end in confusion. Caricom and then Caribbean, but somehow a spelling disaster. It's a West Indian politician. I mean you went to big institution, and how come you can't unite 7 million? When a West Indian unity, I know it's very easy. If you only rap to your people and tell them like me that it's one race from the same place that make the same trip on the same ship. intention is for a better life in the region. For we woman and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. You say that in Federation, but imported white from England, and you're going and form a Carifta with a true West Indian flavor. But since Carifta started running, morning, noon, and night all are hearing, it's just money speech, them prime minister giving. But I say no such a money, good for my unity. Look up all your people need, here I get like one race, from the same place. I make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region. For we woman, and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. CARICOM is wasting time. The whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we can't plan where we go in. That's why some want to be communist, rather some want to be socialist. And one set of religion go out to the foolishness. Look a man who don't know his history, can't afford no unity. How could a man who don't know his roots on his own ideology like one race from the same place? Like the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention, it's for a better life in the region. For we woman, and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. The Federation done dead, and Carifta going to bed. But the cult of the Rastafarian spreading through the Caribbean. It have Rastas now in Trinidad, it have Rastas now in St. Lucia.
Right. Yes, Salakia. Right, so I also jump back in there because I'm going to bring out now one of the pitfall that the so-called black man end up in, right? Even as Black Stallion was singing the song, I believe he went on to win the Calypso Crown when he sang the song, right? So let me just get some of the words of the song. Right, so I want to touch on some of the lyrics of the song in case the audio wasn't too clean, but it's a song that they can go back and listen, right? So I just touching on this, right? Who remembers this Calypso by Black Stallion, right? When it was released in 1979, the name of it is Caribbean Unity. It sparked controversy across the region. Even today, the song is still brought up in debates around Caribbean integration because the challenges of regional unity were not new, right? So it had challenges in regional unity because the so-called black man over time keep understanding that you trying to integrate that problem, and the same thing happened with Martin Luther King. We tried to integrate, and even him for himself said he regret because he think he led his people into a burning house because the so-called black man, even in America, right, in the late 1800s, had Black Wall Street and so forth. And when we start integrating with white society, that is when we lost everything. When you are separate, the so-called black man responsible for building up the major universities in America, like we call it again, Oxford University and so forth, right? Start teaching ourselves to read, you know what I mean, write and so forth. And when we integrate, the so-called black man now end up in servitude to the other races again. And this was always the pitfall of the so-called black man, right? So it sparked controversy across the is still brought up in debates around the Caribbean, around Caribbean integration, because the challenges of regional unity are not new. Consider the relevance of the lyrics in 2020. So now it's showing you it's still relevant. What Black Stallion sang, it's still relevant in 2020 if you read the lyrics, right? It says, look, a man who don't know his history can't form no unity. And this is what we keep saying in the ISUPK since 1969. With all the so-called black man understanding history, it's impossible for we to have unity. And that we always using as a local example, Rasta and Muslim. In foreign, it will be Bloods and Crips. And in every other place, all in the southern part of the Americas, among the Hispanic tribes, same gangs. Because we have no identity and we do not identify ourselves as one people. So it's a constant struggle to form unity among black people, which is blacks, Native Indians, and Hispanics, right? Right? How can a man who don't know his roots form his own ideology? Which is a really heavy statement, because you don't know where you come from, but you saying, I's a Rasta, I's a Muslim. So then the whole thing boils down, where you get that from? Who tell you that? You understand? Your fathers or your father's fathers leave some information for you saying use a Rasta, or use a Muslim, or use a Egyptologist. Where you get that from? You just choose to be that. It had no Chinese, no way that choose to be African, or no East Indian that choose to be Chinese, because they know who it is. We are the only people now that was stripped our culture, stripped our identity. And this was prophesied in the scriptures, and it also prophesied in the last days that men, prophets of the Most High, black men, is going to give the so-called black man back his identity, back his laws, back his customs, commandments, and statutes. And that is what's happening today. So it's high time for me to pay attention, because it's not Africans. Once the time permit, I will go into something else where it had some Africans now apologizing for slavery, right? Which is not enough. And the Most High already stated that in the scriptures. Their apology is not enough. They're going to pay a heavy price. All these African nations for enslaving the chosen people or the children of the Most High. That's what scriptures always tell you. My people that are called by my name. And the name of the so-called black man is not Brown and John and Johnson, which is slave names, right? It's Yasharala. That is my people that are called by my name. That is the name that the Most High give to the children of Israel. Yasharala, which is Prince of the Power. So when you read in that scripture now, you can get some perspective. My people that are called by what? By my name. So all black people are called by the Most High, Yasharala, which is princes of the power, sons of the Most High God. And that is what we must understand. So when you read in the Bible now, there's no confusion. He ain't talking about no East Indian, no Chinese, no Japanese, no Syrians. He talking to who? Princes of the power, Yasharala, which is Israelites, which is the children of Israel, as I read about in the scriptures, which is the so-called black man, the Native Indian man, and the Hispanic man today. All right? Let me just touch on something else again before I move down. Salakia. In the case of Caribbean unity, Stalin uses Calypso to communicate with the Caribbean masses. So Stalin back in that time was like a celebrity today. So he's saying in his song, right, so he's saying to the leaders, all went a big institution, but to unite 7 million people, which is the so-called black man, all they can do that by united 7 million people, because no matter how educated your politicians, your priests, and your pastors, it will never bring unity among black people until somebody give them the identity back, which that we are the real Jews according to the Bible. So the Caribbean man as one race from the same place, that made the same trip on the same ship. So Black Stallion now was trying to enforce some type of unity among the Caribbean man, but not having any knowledge and not being in the only place that have the true knowledge of the so-called black man, which is in the ISUPK, he still was unable to even through the song, to bring, you know, some type of unity to the so-called black man, as many leaders tried. Marcus Garvey tried, right? Martin Luther King tried, and so forth, and they was unsuccessful, because the scriptures say no man will be able to deliver us from this captivity. It's only the king of Israel, the head of Israel, Yahushua, who the world calls Christ, which is a so-called black man from the tribe of Judah, which will be an American black today. That is the man that is going to take us out of this captivity, right, and destroy America. All right, and other classes are going to see that, or you know, these classes might come back up again, right? So we must push one common intention, and it's better, and for the better life of the region, for the woman and for the children. This must be the ambition of the Caribbean man. All right. Right, so now we have a quote here where they're saying, when we ask about the controversy created by Caribbean unity, that is the name of the song, right? The man who sang the song, Stalin, he replied was, the song speaks for itself, and I don't have to explain anything. I just brought a message to the politicians and to the people. All right, so that is a you know, an old school song, but it's a good song to pay attention to. You know what I mean? Because that is one of the few songs that is going to inspire the so-called black man in some type of way to really check in history to understand, hey, what is my race, boy? Where are you from? Not knowing that your race, your identity is hidden in plain sight. You know, I have a proverb that say, if you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in a book. And that was the trap of the so-called black man, and that stemmed from slavery. Because when the so-called black man tried to read the Bible, not read anything, because we built many massive structures all over North, Central, and South America. We was able to read, but we was not able to read the Bible. We either were burnt out for reading the Bible. All right, and that was one of the demise. That built-in fear from generation to generation. The so-called black man now starts staying away from the scriptures, and even the Christian church teaching pure rubbish, teaching the blood of Jesus and all kind of madness, things that the scriptures are not saying. The so-called black man now, with all this information coming on, realizing that them pastors had to be mad. That ain't adding up. Look, I'm still in the ghetto. I'm still depressed. The Bible only working for East Indians, Syrians, for everybody else, but it ain't working for the so-called black man, because it was not taught by real priests and prophets, which is in the ISUPK. All right, under Commander General Yahana. Right. In saying that, just give me a scripture. Give me 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 15, and I'll go down to 17.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 15. So as much as in me is, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also.
Right, read on.
Verse 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ.
Right.
For it is the power of the Most High unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. Right,
so the scriptures saying that the scriptures was preached first to the Jews, which is the so-called black man that was speaking the native language at the time, the Jews, and also to the Greeks. Those were under Roman rule that was speaking the language of the Greeks, which is real Jews like today talking English. That was the scriptures preached to the Jews and the Greeks. It's just Israelites speaking a different language. All right, he didn't talk about the East Indians. And never take it at face value. It's not no East Indians there. It's not no Chinese. It's not no Japanese. So that's going to make it no alone that the pastor don't know what he's talking about. He talk about the Jews and the Greeks, which is what black people or Israelite that was under captivity during the Roman Empire. Right, that is around the time when Christ come on the scene. All right, read on. I'm not sure if this is the scripture one, but read on.
Verse 17. For therein is the righteousness of the Most High revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith.
Right, that was all? All right, give me Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 26.
Okay. The book of Leviticus, chapter 20 and verse 26. And ye shall be holy unto me.
Right, ye shall be what?
Ye shall be holy unto me.
Right, so this is a law in the scriptures, the Most High telling the so-called black man, right, in the law, that ye shall be holy unto me. And the word holy in the Hebrew is quadash, which means separate. Ye shall be holy unto me, or separate unto me. Read on.
For I, the Most High, am holy.
Because the Most High God is saying, why I want you to do that? Because you is my people. I want you to be holy because I am holy. Be separate as I am separate. Right? That was all in it, right?
That's it.
Read on.
And I have served you. And I have severed you
Right.
from other people.
Read that again.
And I have severed you from other people.
And the Most High saying, I, the Most High power, he said, I have severed you. And watch the word I use. He have severed you, separated you from other people. The so-called black man is not the same as other people. He separate and sever the so-called black man from all other races on the planet. There are things that the so-called black man is not allowed to do. Just like any good parent, any responsible parent or any responsible father, any responsible husband, what he's going to do, being that hedge of protection, he's going to be an overseer to your children and to your wife. He's going to set parameters and boundaries that is going to save them from danger. Right? There is no such thing as love without boundaries. Anytime you hear you're in a situation have no boundaries, that's not love. Right? If you are your children, you'll tell them, man, don't walk here, don't pass there, take here, fall over, so whatever the case may be. And for your wife, it's the same thing. You might see a certain zone, you might say, don't go up there. They might be too dangerous. You're going to set and show that love by creating boundaries. And that is what the Most High set for us. He said everything was created good and for its purpose. But then he set boundaries for the so-called black man. From since in the garden. Boundaries for us, so that now it's going to be a protection for us. Right? But we was tempted to go beyond those boundaries, and that is the consequences we're facing today. We in captivity or we in hell, according to the scriptures. Alright, that was it, right?
That's it.
Read on.
And I have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine.
That he should be what?
That ye should be mine.
Right, so the scripture is saying, we should be, and we should belong to the Most High power. We ain't to do we own thing. The Christian pastor tell you, yeah, let's pray and eat. You eat what you want. Once you pray over it, you say, nah, I severed you to be separate to me. You understand? Not separate to your Christian pastor because he feeling to eat pork. He trying to get everybody to eat pork too. Because that is what sinners just do. Sinners, when they commit a sin, they want everybody to commit that sin with them. You understand what I'm saying? You kill somebody, you're trying to get somebody else now tie up in your murder. You understand what I'm showing you? Like saying, people to say, nobody wants to die alone. You understand? That is that spirit. That was it, right? Right? You go hold the book of Ezekiel chapter 8 and 17 and Proverbs 16 and 27 for me. Right? Now let's play one more little piece of the song here because I don't remember something to bring out in it. Hold them two scriptures from later on. Right? So this song was a good song by Black Stallion, and I'm going to show you the trap that the so-called black man, that is the scripture saying no man will be able to take you out of this captivity. I will show you the trap right in the same song here that the so-called black man always falling in. So the song was a solid song, you know what I mean? You bring out some little points and so forth, but I will show you the trap within the song. That the so-called black man, Native Indian man, Hispanic man always falling into.
And Carista going to bed, but the cut of the Rastafarian, spreading through the Caribbean. They have Rastas now in Grenada, they have Rastas now in St. Lucia, but to run Carista, yes, you getting pressure. If the Rastafari movement spreading.
So now you say it are Rastas in Grenada, Rastas in this, we calling out the different islands, right, that you know it are Rastas in. So now you started to talk about what? The so-called black man started to talk about the Rastafarian movement. Because during that time now, they now looking for the God as like an abandoned child, looking now for this power to take them out of captivity, they know what they find. They find the Rastafarian God, which again, integration. So the so-called black man end up in the same trap. We now end up serving a God that belongs to what? The East Indians. Because Rastafarianism, dreadlocks, that spring, that from the East Indian. That is our old East Indian custom, right? And we have classes on that, and I will put a link concerning that in the chat. So having dreadlocks, right? Ras, that is an East Indian custom to become a high priest. You can bathe, may know if about 7 years you can bathe or something so you hear mat. But in Israel, the so-called black man, our history, you can't do that. You have to bathe. That is a law. Alright, you want to bathe, you have a punishment for that. You must bathe. But that East Indian custom, all that sand and dust and whatever in here, that is what will make you here lock. So you put in grease, you take in whatever, but the so-called black man, being the salt of the earth, what we just do, we just take anything that is evil and put salt on it or a swag to it. We will smoke and make it look fancy. We grow ras, make it look fancy. So we end up now serving another god, which is belong to the East Indians. That god is a god called Shiva, an idol called Shiva. So the so-called black man end up now in that trap because again, as he's singing, we don't know the history, we don't know we have no ideology about ourselves, so we fall into that trap as serving the god are the East Indians, having ras and smoking weed. So we end up falling in that trap. So before I read the scriptures, let me just finish play out this piece there. So you see the Rastas there? So he's saying it's one race, but now we identify ourselves now serving another God. And that these things kindle the fire the Most High. The Most High does get rotted. As scripture say, I God is a jealous God. So the Most High power want the so-called black man to serve him alone. Not no idol. Not no heathenic God. You understand? Not no Christmas tree. And putting gift on that. That is a history from Nimrod. All this Diwali. You understand? They were saying an Easter, which is from another god, some Ashtati or something like that. You understand? Togi. That's an East Indian god where thugs come from. That way the word thugs start from. It's from the East Indians. That the culture are being thugs. This history will go into as the time going along. Alright?
So they pushing one common intention is for a better life in the region for the woman and their children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man.
Alright? So you give me that script there, you know.
From the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8 and verse 17. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here?
Right. So now, this was in the book of Ezekiel. The Most High now is talking to the prophet Ezekiel and saying, is it a light thing for the house of Israel, for the house of Judah? So he's talking about black people here. He's talking about the abominations that black people start to commit. This was in the Old Testament. And it's showing you the same trap of abominations that the so-called black man fall into today. Right? Read what the abomination was.
For they have filled the land with violence.
Right? We start to fill the land with all manner of violence. The things we start to learn from the heathen. The things that the so-called black man fall into today. Violence within the communities. Read on.
And have returned to provoke me to anger.
Right, and now the Most High is saying the so-called black man, he returned to provoke him to anger. Right, and how to do that? Read on.
And lo, they put the branch to their nose.
They do what?
They put the branch to their
The
nose.
scripture is saying, and look, and lo, the so-called black man, he put the branch to his nose. The so-called black man start picking up the custom of smoking. And smoking is an abomination to the Most High.
Right.
There is no herb that was created by the Most High from the book of Genesis all the way down in from after creation that was designed to be consumed by smoking. It had eating, rubbing, drinking, everything, but not smoking. Nothing for the so-called black man. It was for food. All herbs was for food and for medicine,
Right.
not to smoke. And the so-called black man ended up now entrapped by following the ways of the heathen, by following now these East Indian customs, because that was part of their culture to smoke marijuana, right? And you go through the whole process of having the ras to become high priest. So we start smoking marijuana, and I think even the introduction of marijuana was even they bringing across different type of cannabis and so forth from East India across here. And even when you're talking about ras, a lot of people don't understand that. The reason why the scriptures tell you that Samson had locks is because the reason why the scriptures call it locks is because it's something that can lock and something that can unlock. What we call it today, we call it cornrows. We call it braids. So Samson always had 7 locks in here. That is why he always between the Delilah line. Plaiting here in 7, regardless of what the style might be. Like what you might see brothers today with 7 canos going back, 7 canos coming down, but was locks because they can lock it. And custom in Israel, you had a bead. So now you are unlock it and go and wash your hair and you lock it again. Because Israel now is a nation of people of Christ say, we see salt of the earth, we are a swag, we are a flavor. We ain't having them big dirty junk I think on we head and feeling we powerful. We always had style and flavor. The scriptures talk about the glory of Israel, men and women. Right? So we lock over here in braids and we unlock it. That is why it was called locks. So it's something just to take note of. And smoking is an abomination to the Most High power. Right? That is a demon. You understand? Because all demons always attempt to make you kill yourself or commit suicide. And it's the same thing. All right? Just as how the swine was cast in the pigs and the pigs run off the mountain and killed themselves because they had to finish the work. These things will be going into other classes. Give me the next scripture, Tawara. Proverbs 16 and 27.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 27. An ungodly man diggeth up evil,
Right.
and his lips, and in his lips there is a burning fire.
Right. Read it from the top again.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 27. An ungodly man diggeth up evil.
Right. So the scripture is saying an ungodly man diggeth up evil. All right. Read on.
And in his lips there is a burning fire.
And in his lips there is a burning fire. So if you see a righteous man anyway, and he's saying he's a righteous man or whatever, he go be smoking. Like all you see all the Christian pastors coming out the church and going in the back or in the smoke room to take a smoke break. The scripture is saying that man is an ungodly man.
Right.
That man digging up evil. Because that's what he doing displeases the Most High God, and it written in the scriptures. Alright, so ain't no 2 ways about it, and it ain't nothing to understand. Alright, so we rolling down a little bit again as we cover that. Right? I'm going on one more video. With some African, but this here was like a big joke to me, but I had to bring it out still because we people really destroyed. We really know we culture and history, and that Christianity matching up with people. You understand? That Christianity is poison. It's one of the strongest jobs. Somebody on crack cocaine might have a better chance to come off than come off of Christianity. All right, it's very serious. All right, so this video I'm playing here is apology from slavery. This video was out like around, let me see, 2018, where some Africans now apologizing for enslaving black people. And you can see the craftiness, you understand, with the Africans and also the hiker Christianity. Let me see how long this is, right? It ain't too long. Enough time. All right, so you pay attention to this video also. Apology for slavery. I name it, so you can always watch it.
I wish at this point to particularly to apologize deeply on behalf of the chiefs and people of Gold Coast. And
right, so this is an African Chief, he apologizing also on behalf of other chiefs, right? So I'm taking it from the top again. So you're just listening.
Very privileged to be with you, particularly our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and the diaspora, and the people from all over Africa, our brothers and sisters from all over Africa. I wish at this point to particularly to apologize deeply on behalf of the chiefs and people of Gold Coast and Ghana for the atrocities, the cruelty, the inhuman treatment that were committed 400 years ago by my ancestors.
Right? So you say you're apologizing for the slavery that was committed 400 years ago, right, by his ancestors. And the so crafty in the conversation, he's saying it was committed 400 years ago. So picture this. Somebody come in your house, kidnap you, rape you, kill some of your children, you know what I mean, rape your mother, right, hang your father, and them come and now and tell you, well, 10 years ago, you know what I mean, I had to do that and I apologize. Now remember this, you're still in captivity, eh? You still in the same house, and them watching you and telling you, they apologize. That is the arrogance and the hidden, and that is the way how they feel. A lot of black people very stupid because they know that we don't know history, and they go show you how we don't know history. Comment lower down in the end of the video.
During the Atlantic slave trade, where over 400 years ago, millions of our brothers and sisters were captured.
Right, and this is a famous word or phrase, I should say, Salakia, that heathens love to use. Brothers and sisters. This reminded me like Kamala. My brothers and sisters, everybody, when coming to their own gain or their own propaganda, all of a sudden, black people is always the brothers and sisters. But we're not Africans. And we can prove that every day. You understand? And we can prove it according to the Bible. Ain't no brothers and sisters. Because you say a lot of my brothers and sisters was what? Was captured. Your brothers and sisters don't need to be captured. If you had to sell your brothers and sisters, you just had to wrap them up and sell them. But now, we was hunted down and we was captured. You understand? And sold. Alright? Let me play that part again.
Where over 400 years ago, millions of our brothers and sisters were captured, sold, and transported under inhumane and cruel circumstances through Elmina Castle across to the Caribbean and to the New World.
Right, the place he's talking about is a slave port where the ship was out from.
On behalf of the chiefs and people of Ghana, I do render unqualified apology deep from the bottom of our hearts. Deep from our bottom of our hearts. But one thing that I want you to be aware of, it was not without resistance.
And watch, and this son of a gun, he's smiling and saying, I apologize, but I wanted to know something. It wasn't, they didn't get kidnapped without resistance. And watch his smile on his face. We was kidnapping them and shipping them, but it wasn't without resistance. The fight.
Some of our chiefs did fought and resisted. Some of our people did fought and resisted. But we are fighting a losing battle against a stronger army.
And watch all these people here,
People with
brainwash.
guns.
All these people here, what them have in their hand on the chest, kill them dead. This African, and must you have the majority of them here, maybe African too. And I have one or two Christian in between to talk some rubbish just now, but you go see it. Be careful. So I'm showing this video so we can't fall prey to these things on social media.
We had no guns. They deceived us with liquor.
All right, that's not. I miss our thing here. right?
And all
just listen to what he's saying, eh?
they deceive get stronger.
Listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. The deceiving by, right? Listen to what he's saying. What the Africans get deceived by, right? So listen to that point clear, and then quote from Joel chapter 3 and verse 3.
People with guns, we had no guns. They deceived us with liquor.
See his smile on his face?
All other temptations.
He said they deceived us with liquor and all manner of temptations. That is what the Africans saying, right? So before I continue, give me Joel chapter 3 and verse 3.
The book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people.
Right, so this is that prophecy, right, from in the book of Joel. The scripture is saying that cast lots for his people, right? Talking about them dusty African with fly walking all on the eyeball and they have more to pay, right? Read on.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
What they do?
And have given a boy for an harlot.
And they take a lot of the male black boys and sell them to the so-called white man for harlots, for sex slaves. That's what the scripture is saying. Read that part one more time.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
Right, they're giving a boy for a harlot, right? Read on.
And sold a girl for wine.
And did what?
And sold a girl for wine.
And take we daughters and sell them for what? For wine. Right? So here what the son of a gun say now. What's the smile on his face?
We had no guns. They deceived us with liquor.
I'm gonna play one more time. Salakia.
People with guns, we had no guns. They deceived us with liquor.
See, they deceive them with liquor. What is
and
smile?
all other temptations.
And all other temptations. The so-called black man had to wake up.
The circumstances that led us to us.
Right, yeah, Salakia. Go ahead.
Yeah, Salakia, so if I may, right? And as we were saying,
Right.
that this happened with his ancestors 400 years ago.
Right.
Right? And it shows you how destroyed the black man is today, because this happened 400 years ago and he still had the records
Right.
of what his ancestors received.
That's right.
For selling slaves.
That's right. And we know a simple thing as a bringing out a heavy point of some my papa, because you mentioned that he could still tell you, we sell Negroes, we sell niggers for wine, and the boys for harlots. He can remember that from 400 years ago. And you know what we can remember? We can remember our own identity.
Right.
We can remember our own race. First people get beat right down to nothing. As the scriptures tell you, they go take the yokes of iron from off we neck when they destroy we. And when we get destroyed mentally, we don't know who he is, we walking around now. We feel we emancipated. We feel we free slaves. And not a man, none of we, up till now, we can't return home. And when I say return home, come back with your community, with your laws, with your commandments, with your statutes, with your customs. We still lost. Roaming around, lost. Still being slaves. All right? That was all I wanted to say.
And it's my wish and prayer that this apology is accepted. It's accepted by our brothers and sisters from the.
I see face there, what she face. He plainly sad now. They're apologizing because they know what coming. It's only the so-called black man in understand. I hear some Africans talk certain things. You see history? The people really need to start to pay attention to history, because they're going to make you understand better the scriptures and make you understand what's coming. The heathen know that disaster and destruction is coming for them. So they're running now after 400 years of dancing, singing and having a merry time. Now they want to apologize. But it's too late.
That's for them. In the blood of Jesus, assist us.
Right, so you hear him now? Now we pouring out the copper poison. He is an African in the back of Africa. And you hear what he's talking about? he say, may the blood of Jesus assist us, because he know Christianity have the so-called black man in a gear.
Right.
White supremacy, how he in full lock. So now he pouring on the blood of poison, and he go see the Christians coming forward just now.
To overcome that evil, that never again should be witnessed. This cruelty, this inhuman cruelty of man to man in this country. I thank you once again on behalf of the chiefs and people of Ghana. We do render this apology. I ask my colleague to add a few words to what I have said to you. And it's my wish and prayer that in the name of the blood of Jesus, you do accept our apology.
And then also now, like for all the so-called black people that feel is African and love Africans and want to run back in Ghana where they rape all your grandparents, rape your fathers, everything, and coming back after 400 years now, why is you still in captivity? And tell you, we hope the blood of Jesus fix it. You understand? It's time for the so-called black man to wake up.
Right.
You understand? And claim your impact, which is to rule the planet. So it didn't go have no more ripping. Because when they're under we hand, they carry. We break their back.
We stand here once again symbolically at the gate of no return.
Right. So now, yeah.
We stand
Salakia,
here.
this is one of the Christians there, one of the coons, one of the persons, they're responsible for having the so-called black man in captivity. So now they're by the gate and no return. So they're somewhere on the west coast of Africa there, and they go down and get a famous Christian speech, and I what show a woman in particular. That's why the scriptures talk about women and tell them, let the woman learn in silence, and they have a question asked the husband at home. Them kind of games here, women can do many things, but there are things that women can do that men can do, and things that men can do that women can do, and we have to reestablish order in Israel.
Right.
Just even among the men, it have rank, order. That is what it have, right? So everything now go running as smoothly.
As husband and wife, we stand here as the African male and as the African woman, the African family, the African community, the representatives of an African nation in a diaspora. We have come to say that we've heard your words. We have discerned through our experience and through our journey that what the devil meant for evil, God meant for good.
Right. So that is the white man infamous Christianity speech that is just dropping there. You understand? So that go wipe away all your pain and all your tears. You understand? And everything is going to be okay. But when Hitler was killing the Jews, the so-called Jews, the fake Jews, right? What happened? White people move in and kill Hitler to save the own people. All of them is the same race and save the own people. But since we get kidnapped and brought across to West Africa 400 years ago, as he said, right? Which African army ever try to rescue the so-called black man from across North, Central, and South America if he was Africans? None. You know why? Because they know we're not the same race of people.
Right.
Africa over 50 countries. And any black man at sense go realize sooner or later, yeah, he is a Negro. That's what they used to call it here when they bring you across in slavery. Not Africans. They never try to help you because they know he is not the same race of people as them. Some of them are the long neck tribe, the tribe with the big plates on the lip, the 1,000-scar tribe. Is the list goes on endless, and that over 50 countries. Which tribe you belong to? And none of them ever try to help you. They're selling oil, they're trading, life going on as normal. They never attempt, even till now, they never attempt to help the so-called black man. Because they know he's not the same race. And they keep playing the black man games for each race to remain in power. Because they know they're the power. When we're slaves, them don't have to work. Them in heaven. And the so-called black man, we in hell. But as long as we know the identity, they know we're going to take charge and we're going to rule. Them now going to end up in hell, which is to serve, and we going to be the rulers. We going to be in heaven, which is the desire and the will of the Most High. All right. I dropping down to a little part of the video on the end there. Then I get away from some of this because just rush. Right. I want to come down with this woman here, right? So more than likely, this woman here is a Jake or a so-called black woman, right? And that's what play this little piece. So them coming to apologize, right, to the so-called black man with the slavery. They don't do no mama writing already. I'll show you how we had mash up. Like all the scriptures say is Israel a homeborn slave, right? And make me remember one officer, Quadash, went out on the streets when people was rioting to make them to understand we had to separate from the heathen. And a white man decide that he want to kiss his boots as an apology. The whole crowd want to revolt. You understand? They want the white man to kiss the boots. But watch what happening on the reverse here. The Africans are apologizing, right, to the so-called black man, and watch Christianity in full effect.
Curse from just what happened here. But this is the beginning of liberty and freedom for your town and your area, for what you have done today, what we have witnessed. Those devils are silenced today. No more. When Steve,
Watch this, right?
all of us,
so she gave them a speech there that it was how to prosper because you know what to do.
With
and watch.
humility.
Watch.
To receive
she kneeling down to them African and them. You catching me? Telling them thanks. So watch the African them reaction. Them must be saying, we really destroyed. Them fighting to pick the woman off the ground. They done selling a dream already. And now they had to fight to get you off the ground. Because them must want to know what the hell you doing. We telling you we destroy your whole race and your whole nation for over 400 years, right? For wine and for all other whatever crap the Africans get from the Syrians and the so-called white man. And you know, still going and kneeling before them instead of them kneeling in front of you. That is the destruction of Christianity. Because this woman here is a Christian. You understand? And the head smash. You understand? When it calls itself a Christian, it should be shameful. Which means it knows absolutely nothing what happening and they're just selfish. All them we studying, them, I saw them African get them to cheap gift. They know it on TV and they come in and do this and this publish on Facebook. And they go home with all the money. Because them ain't doing nothing to try to help the nation. They get something in their pocket and they slide back home like a snake. You understand? Just to eat for a day. The so-called black man know how to come out of that and rise together and understand this is a nation, a people that needs to regain the identity, that need to know that they are the real Jews. That is what we need to understand and come back, get together in the ISUPK under Commanding General Yana, get some discipline, get some order, learn who he is, and rebuild the nation. All right. With that, Acts chapter 13 and verse 1. All right. Acts chapter 13 and verse 1. Because it's time for the so-called black man to come out of this thing where we feel we is Africans, right?
The book.
Yes, no, let's still like here. Hold it for 1 minute, then let's open up this. I don't know, I might enlarge this. Right? I don't know if you go pick up on the screen. Must see. Alright, I think it's seen on the screen. If you watch on the screen here, right, they will be seeing valuable gang of young Negroes. So when you're watching all the slave records, you're going to keep seeing it showing slaves for sale, and the slaves is Negroes, not Africans. Alright, because we are known as Negroes, niggers, or Niger, which means black, from since in biblical days. So the Africans knew exactly who they was gathering up. It's like East Indians hiding in Trinidad, and we decide to gather up East Indians and sell them. It's an easy thing to find with two different race of people, but are dark skin too. Gather them up and sell them. That is exactly what happened to the so-called black man. All right, so it's something to take note of. So you see in here, Negroes for sale, right? That is just one. Let me scroll and see if I can get a few more. Right, everything in a stockpile. Right, the next one here. So it's a whole long list of them, right? I just opening up one or two so they could see it, but these things they could go and get, they could do some research with some of these basic things in the Trinidad Gazette, in the Trinidad newspaper. You go see where they're hunting slaves, selling slaves, slaves for sale, bounties for capturing slaves running away from the plantation. All this is in the Trinidad Gazette, right? Need to be sold on board the ship, right? Negroes just arrived from the Windward and rice craft or something, so it mark here, right? But all is Negroes. All right, give me the scripture in Otawara.
The book of Acts, chapter 13 and verse 1. Now, there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger.
Right, read that from the top again, Salakia.
The book of Acts, chapter 13 and verse 1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger.
Right, so there were certain prophets and teachers, the scripture is saying, all right, like Barnabas, and what's the next name?
Simeon.
And Simeon, that was called Niger, right? That was called nigger, right? As they call now Negro. The prophets were called niggers. This is in the book of Acts chapter 13 and verse 1, right? Niger, which means black. That is where the word nigger comes from, right? A Greek word. So the so-called black man must understand that these scriptures is talking about you so-called black man. All the prophets in the scriptures was black. The description of Christ is black. People just pretend that these things are not relevant. But these things are relevant and make the black man understand his identity, right? And that is what's going to take us out of captivity. All right? You go hold it on that. Give me Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse 2.
Okay. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground.
All right, say that again.
They are black unto the ground.
Yes, Salakia. Yeah, this one. Yeah, turn it off. It's about my charger close by Salakia before you continue. Bring it across and jack in this. Let me see if it will still come back on. I don't know if it die completely. And the extension. Yeah. It's Salakia. No, it didn't plug in. Oh. That's the hold up. Salakia, let's hold up on that script there 1 minute. I'm trying to see if I can get some power back. All right, look. Yeah, use that. That will be better. So what that? Like power run off a die all the way down. Cut off. But that is all right. Yeah. It cut off. All right. Read on, Salakia.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 2. Judah mourneth,
right,
and the gates thereof languish.
Right, so the scripture is saying Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, right? So Judah is in mourning because we understand that we're in the ghettos, right? We're in the bottom of society. We're in hell right now, so the Jews are in mourning. The gates thereof languish, talking about our leaders. Our leaders are weak, right? The gates languish. The gates no longer protect the so-called black man from the pitfalls, right, of the society, the pitfalls of this empire, right? Read on.
They are black unto the ground.
They are what?
They are black unto the ground.
Right, so the Jews are black as unto the ground in comparison to the ground. All right, all different shades are brown. Read on.
And the cry of Jerusalem is gone up.
And the cry of Jerusalem have reached up to the Most High. All right. Read on. That was it. All right, and that is basically making it understand that the Jews are black. Right. So let me just read a little piece of this article from Emancipation here. I wanted to make sure and get us on the next thing, but it cut off already. All right. This article here is an article showing you the entire setup of the emancipation, what the emancipation is all about. Even the night before emancipation, right? Slave owners were still trying to kidnap slaves, right? And trying to get them not to quote unquote be emancipated, even to go into apprenticeship. Because when the slaves were emancipated, they wasn't free. They had to work for 6 years on the slave plantations that we brought all the points before, right? On the slave plantation for over 10 hours, all right, for a period of 6 years. And our slaves had to do it for, I believe, was a period of 4 years, right? So this article in Mighty Like Insurrection, right, going to show you that the first Emancipation Day in 1834 was not the glorious day of the enslaved people of Trinidad, Slovakia. Not the glorious day, the Emancipation Day in 1834 was not the glorious day the enslaved people of Trinidad had hoped for. No longer slaves, they were not yet free. All right? So it was not the glorious day they hoped for, because they wasn't yet free when they was looking forward to emancipation. Yes, Slovakia. Say again? All right. All right. And now if you read down in the article, it's going to show you all different atrocities that they faced. They was out in the rain with the children. You know what I mean? I don't want to go too much into it because it's close to the grill, Slovakia, close to Black Watch. But we had to endure a lot of suffering. And all this can be found, as I say, in the Trinidad Gazette, where we had to endure all these things, right? I'm going to read this one piece. I'm going to tie into what I was saying just now. L. Joseph, the British-born editor of Port of Spain Gazette, wrote a planter's eye view account of Emancipation Day in his History of Trinidad, the first published in 1838. The Negroes of Trinidad, and here it again, they're saying, and this is in 1838, the Negroes of Trinidad. So they call us what? Negroes, not Africans. The Negroes of Trinidad, wrote Joseph, behave less riotly than those of some of the neighboring colonies. They show much resistance, but this in most cases was of a passive nature. The use of cotton lines convinced some of the most refractory of they wrong. Contrary to the desire of many, martial law was not proclaimed. Right? So the Negroes has a stay in line, and they use the cotton line whip to convince them to stay in line and accept the apprenticeship. All right, I ain't gonna go more into it. All right, probably another time I will bring out different elements of the emancipation, deception. All right, that did nothing for the so-called black man. All right, then now we're going to look to tune into the grill, Slovakia, Black Watch with our commanding general Yahan. All right, and with that, I pass the class over to Police and Officer Mike Kwa. I will try to get it back up on him and put it in. Let's do Slovakia. Yes,
this is the ISCPK security announcements. We are the ISCPK out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or a sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if your brother or your sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to the brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After the 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 to 10. Means 10 in the Hebrew and is pronounced Ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation. The upcoming Holy Convocation is the memorial blowing of the trumpets, which is the first day of the 7th month on the Hebrew calendar, which is Thursday, September 17, 2020. You can find this in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 24 to 25. Remind Achium and Aquatium to check on social media, such as iscpk.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If your brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, like shirt, like pants, like headbands, or scarf. And with that, we say, imagine. Sir, we're going to turn and face the east. I'm going to begin with the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa.
Still up here. 1 minute. I can pull it off.
The Lord prayer in the Hebrew, Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayah, Kwadash, Aya, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakwatka, Taba'a, Ratazaka, Aya, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Aya, Mashemaya, Yatan Lanawa, Lakam, Kal, Yawam, Wasalak now, Kawawat now, Kasalak now, Kawawat now, Wala'a, Tabaya now, Banasaya 1, Abal, our Shino, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Amalakwa, Wahala, Watapara, Waivalamium, Aman.
What we said in English was our Father, which art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Yahweh. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth. As it is in heaven. Give us this day. Our daily bread. And forgive us. Our debts. As we forgive our debtors. And lead us not. Into temptation. But deliver us. From evil. For thine is the kingdom. And the power. And the glory. Forever. So be it.
We're going to say the blessings in the Hebrew. Rakata Yahweh. Wa Yahweh Shai. Wa Makaala. Wa Alahayam. Matazabia. Alawap Yahan. Ha Alawapia. Ha Sarania. Ha Kwatazaya Nyam. Ha Kayali Yam. Wa Akwatiam. Yahweh. Wa Hashem. Yahweh Shai. So Wala Aman.
In the English, bless you Yahweh.
And
Yahweh Shai.
And Micah.
And the angels. Commanding General Yohana. Generals. Captains. Officers. Troopers. And the sisters. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Thank you.
We thank you.
So be it.
We're going to say the Hakak or the power in the Hebrew. Yahweh. Ba'ashem. Yahweh Shai. Abokashah. Nathan Nanawa. Hakak. Larapa. Kalmakala. Wakal Madawa. Hakak. Lataha. Atamazariam. Hakak. Lahakoyam. Hamatayam. Hakak. Irakawat. Atamayala. Lagarashan. Ba'ashem. Yahweh Shai. So Wada Aman.
In the English, Yahweh.
In
the name of Yahweh Shai.
Please
give us the power.
The power to heal. All manner of sickness. And all manner of disease.
The power to cleanse the lepers.
The
power to raise the dead.
The power
The power against some clean spirits. To cast them out. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Thank you. So be it. These are the ISP curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh. King of heaven and earth. And all things living. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai. Listen to us now. Right now. Set evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen. That speak against us. Thy prophets. The teachers. The princes. The priests. The Israelite brothers. And the school. Set evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen. And shake loose the treasure of the rich of Israel that refuse to give to the school. Force their riches to enter into thy sanctuary. Set evils and curses and punishment and destruction to the Edomites and the nation and their drug dealers, the court system, the prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the governments of our enemies, Amalek synagogues and armies, Roman Catholic Church,
the Pope,
Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, Skinheads, Fuzzy Komatazi, gay movement, lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space program, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, open up the internet, and the airwaves, the cable access channels, and the radio channels, convict the spirits of any of thy people that seek to stop us and bring swift destruction to all the heathen that stand in the way or try to stop us from broadcasting your words throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro through the earth and consume them. Let the plagues shake the house of the thief and the murderer. Let Yahushai, Michael and Gabriel come down with a flying saucer and punish all the heathen that come up against us as we speak thy word. Cause it to be known by all that it is the angels that have done it. Cause it to be spread through the media, through the whole world. Cause them to shake at thy coming. In the name of Yahushai. Thank you always. So be it. We're going to say the blessed Israel. In the Hebrew, Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Barak Lanawa, Vayashala, Wahabayak, Separium, Barak, Rapa, Magan, Hagan. Commanding General Yahana, all the generals, all the captains, all the officers, all the troopers, all the sisters, all the students, Shamka, Kaya, Yapa, Para. Commanding General Yana, all the generals, captains, officers, troopers, sisters, all the brothers and sisters fighting to come to the truth, and all the destroyed of Israel, John family, Ikoto family, Philip family, Alexis family, and all the brothers and sisters in the ISUPK. Ba'ashem, Yahushai, to Wada Aman. What we said in English was, Lord, in the name of Yahushai. Bless us and Israel. And the school. Bless, heal, shield, protect our loved ones. In the name of Yahushai. Thank you. We thank you. So be it. Sir, we're going to turn and face the teacher and give a one courtesy salute. Amajim Shabbat, Amajim Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Brakatah. Yadiad Mata. We're going to give the sisters online a one courtesy salute. Amajim Shabbat. Amajim Barak. Yahweh Shemai Latan Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yadiad Mata. Class dismissed.